this class, Life as a Spiritual Adventure. So if we can think about, right, like how do we envision our life? Like what do we think of it as? And I don't know that that's a question we often ask ourselves enough, at least. I mean, I think most human beings, at least at some point in their life, decide like what they want their life to be like, certainly in this modern era, right? Um, like 200 years ago, we had a lot less options, so probably questioned a lot less. But there were people who did question, right? Who did sort of like rail against the system. Um, but certainly in today's world, in 21st century Western world, we have like so many options. We can do anything and go anywhere, right? And so how do we, envision what our life's going to be like? And most of us do choose like a career path, and most of us do choose um, a location we want to live in. Even if it's not going to be far, we might choose to live in Baltimore City or Baltimore County or a specific neighborhood in Baltimore City, right? Um, we choose whether we're going to have a life partner or not, and if we're going to pursue that, right? So we make like lots of sort of choices in sort of this very conventional sense. And then we just sort of get to it, right? We go to work, we take out the trash, we clean our dishes, we maybe plant a garden. Like we just kind of like do the thing, right? Read a book. But we don't really spend a lot of time thinking of like what is like this bigger purpose on any kind of day. And periodically we might, right? And we start to question like what is the meaning of all of this? What is the meaning of all of this? Um, but do we ever really start and think like how can I use my everyday activities to have spiritual gain? Like, how can I make every single day spiritual? How can I make every single day bigger than just sort of this like hamster wheel of get up, start the coffee, get breakfast, get in the car, get to work, do the work, come home, eat dinner, watch a TV show, go to sleep, repeat, you know? And then maybe like one day a week, come to a Buddhist temple or some other type of place of faith and have that be like our spiritual thing, right? Um, Whereas like we could potentially be doing every single day is like this spiritual activity. Or I like the term adventure, right? Because adventure sounds fun. Like adventure is something new and different. We all like crave some level of adventure, right? And I like adventure too, right? Because it takes the onus off of having to do something perfectly or having to do something really intensely. It's just an adventure. We're just going to try it. We're going to go on it. Yeah. So we're going to talk a bit about meditation and why it matters. So meditation is a way of training the mind. Another way of thinking about it is a way, so you'll actually, there's lots of definitions of meditation out there, right? It's pretty popular, which is great. Our way of thinking about meditation here as Kadampa Buddhists is a way of becoming familiar with something. It's a way of training our mind. And we're like super familiar with this concept. We are a culture that loves to train our minds. Like we go to school for a long time, right? Or we like to train our bodies, right? Like I don't think you can be on social media. I don't care what you look at some point in your algorithm, you're going to get like an ad for some kind of exercise thing or supplement or diet. I think it's just so ingrained in our culture. But we're very used to training, right? We just had the World Cup, right? I don't know how many people watch that, but like think about how much time and energy goes into the training of those football players, right? So we can train our minds in a similar fashion. Um, and it helps us become familiar with different ways of thinking. And we want to choose carefully. So we want to train our mind in something that actually helps us on our spiritual journey, not something that hurts us. And we want that spiritual journey, right, to be something that helps everyone, that sort of makes us feel more peaceful. So then we're more peaceful. So I'm going to read, this is actually a quote from Transform Your Life, and I can't, unfortunately, I wasn't able to actually find the quote is in the book. Genchagden, when she has us um, teach, she gives us notes, right? Because again, everything is protecting this pure lineage and these pure teachings. It's not just like going off the cuff and coming in and tell you what I think about life, because I'm just a vehicle for these teachings. Usually I'm able to identify like which in the book, the page, but I just wasn't for this particular one, but it is a direct quote from this book, How to Transform Your Life. So Geshe-la writes, by training in meditation, we create an inner space and clarity that enabled us to control our mind regardless of the external circumstances. Gradually, we develop mental equilibrium, a balanced mind that is happy all the time, rather than an unbalanced mind that oscillates between the extremes of excitement and despondency. So, what he's saying in that, right, is if we think about our experiences, most of us, right, we have periods of like highs, right? We go on a great vacation, or maybe we don't even do something that big. Maybe we just have, like for me, if I go to a good concert and see good live music, it just feels so amazing. Like I'm in my element, right? Um, maybe you've just had a wonderful visit with a dear friend or a dear relative, and you just feel so great around them. Or I actually met a horse for the first time about a month ago. I mean, I've seen horses before and I've met them, but I had an experience where I could spend like 3 hours with a horse and not riding it, just like hanging out with it, getting to know it. And it was like life changing. But it was like a high after that, right? Like it was just so amazing. Um, to have that. And then we have periods where we're just sort of ho hum, just kind of doing our life, to do. And then we have periods where we're really, really down. Like we feel hopeless, we feel helpless, everything's overwhelming, right? And we experience these to different degrees depending on who we are. Some people tend to have more periods of despondency than others. Some people have tend to have more highs than others. Some people to be a little more neutral. And we have periods of our life where we might have more highs or lows, right? Um, but we're up and down, right? So what he's talking about is not being flat. He's not talking about being like neutral in the sense that we could take it or leave it. We don't really care, meh, or just sort of not having this sort of full experience. What he's talking about is having like this level of equanimity and this level of um, really joy, but joy that's not attached to things happening around us. Like it's generated internally and it's a calm, stable joy. It's not like a manic, overexcitement roller coaster ride kind of joy, right? It's just this state of like bliss where we're just sort of coasting along and experiencing everything joyfully, but not in an extreme way that feels like too exciting. It feels very natural and calm, if that makes sense. Um, so, to kind of further elaborate on that, what often happens and the reason it feels different than just sort of these very like high highs or just highs is because the highs are often a form of attachment. We're feeling this way because something that we've placed value on happens. And attachment is when something we believe something should make us happy, right? Instead of like understanding it's out there, its objectivity, we're projecting our thoughts and feelings onto it. Attachment is like it exists to make us happy. And we know we're attached to something, versus love. Love is a wish for something else's happiness. So we know the difference in terms of like we can think about, let's say we have a really, really good friend and we see them all the time. We're used to hanging out with them. And all of a sudden they get this amazing job offer, but they have to move to California for it. So we can still be their friend, but we're not going to have like our weekly hangouts. We're not going to have like their support in the same way. There's a time difference, et cetera, et cetera. Um, the love would be excitement and joy for them for getting this wonderful opportunity, but the attachment would be the sadness that they're not going to be there with us anymore. And our close relationships tend to have both love and attachment. It's very hard to just get to the love part, but that's something we can meditate on, right? Um, Attachment, like that excitability, when we know it's what I'm talking about is it's distracting, right? I don't know if anybody's had the experience of like you have a really fun thing happening Friday night, and so it's really hard to get through work Friday because you just want to be at the fun thing. You're just thinking about that. So it's distracting and it's not stable. It's not stable. Yeah, it's like you just can't wait for it. So Buddhas just experience pure bliss. They're not up and down. They're just experiencing pure bliss all the time. So he goes on to say, if we train in meditation systematically, eventually we will be able to eradicate from our mind the delusions that are the causes of all our problems and suffering. In this way, we will come to experience the supreme permanent inner peace of nirvana. Then, day and night, and life after life, we will experience only peace and happiness. So, delusions are, in a Buddhist sense, different than conventional sense. Delusions, in a Buddhist sense, are things like um, things exist outside of me or my mind. Delusions are the attachment I just talked about. Delusions are anger. Anger is just things didn't go my way. Like if you think about the last time you got angry, it was because something didn't go your way. And it could be like completely irrational. We see this in small kids all the time or tweens. I mean, my daughter yelled at me for an hour last week because I suggested instead of having dinner at home, we could go to Red Robin, which is her favorite restaurant. But she couldn't handle the transition and it wasn't part of the plan. And she was busy working on something else. And she got angry at me and yelled at me for an hour. Maybe it wasn't a full hour, but it felt that way. So our anger is really irrational. We can laugh at that, but we get angry at stuff too. I get angry all the time in traffic because, gosh, these cars have the audacity to be where I need to be and they're not moving quick enough, even though oftentimes they are driving the speed limit. You know, we get angry that we don't get a promotion at work, but we don't stop to think that maybe the person who got it was just more capable, right? Or we don't stop to think maybe they weren't more capable. Who knows? We don't stop to think maybe this just isn't the right company for us. We get angry when somebody dies, but death is a part of life. Um, so we can use meditation to apply opponents to these delusions, right? So the opponent to anger is patient acceptance. The opponent to attachment is love. Um, and so what happens is like when we meditate on them, we become more familiar and it changes our habitual reaction to a responsiveness that is calm, that is pure, that is more productive, and that ultimately is really more truthful. You know, and we can test that out because if you can think about stuff that really made you angry or really hurt you like 10 years ago, chances are you can't remember half of it. And then the things that you can remember, you have a little bit more space, you have a little bit more distance to say, oh, I kind of can see that person's point of view now. I can kind of see where we had this like really big misunderstanding. You know, I can see their perspective. You know, I certainly see now, like as a parent, some of this stuff that like I just couldn't understand and was so annoyed with my parents for doing, I can see now. And it's not because they were right or they were always right, but it's because I can understand that they were human beings with lots of stressors. And like any human being couldn't always be patient or kind, or more importantly, know all the things they were that I thought they should know. you know. So we use meditation as a vehicle to train, as a method to train our mind to have these more pure thought patterns and break these delusions.